These are some of the samples that we've been collecting across Pennsylvania dairy farms, and this is a nice visual of the variation we've been dealing with on farms with different particle sizes and different roasting procedures. And we can kind of see, especially for the particle size, how these samples are being ground on farms. So a couple of things that we can highlight. Here we have an extreme example of coarse particle size, all right? And the reality is that this farm is actually following the recommendations from early 90s. They were cracking these soybeans into halves and quarters. Majority halves here, we're gonna be able to observe this. But the dairy cow has changed a lot in the past 30 years. 30 years ago, we didn't have High-Oleic soybeans. So this actually is a particle size that makes sense for a conventional soybean, because I don't want to make that fat available in the rumen and cause milk fat depression. But with the High-Oleic soybeans, we actually have the opportunity to decrease that particle size and feed more of those beans without actually affecting milk fat synthesis. A big complaint of farms that actually feed these coarser soybeans is that they're going to see the soybeans coming out in feces, and that means that most likely there's digestibility that is being lost. So nutrients that you're feeding to the cow, and they're actually not being able to use it. Here we have another sample. It's not too coarse for some diets, all right? So again, depending on the basal diet you have and what the goal is to feed these soybeans, maybe grinding it a little bit coarser is going to be better than going finer, all right? So this is an example of soybean that is about 1700 micron. The diets that these soybeans, in my opinion, would fit better are the diets that have higher starch concentration, or they are feeding high moisture corn, which has higher starch fermentability, or you really want to extract the most out of that rumen undegradable protein. So I feed a little bit coarser soybean so I can actually make sure that the protein is bypassing the rumen. This would be a sample that you're gonna find more often in farms that are grinding these soybeans a little bit finer, but not too fine. So this is a soybean that is about 1200 microns. And probably we still need to gather more data on this, but these are probably the particle size that is gonna be ideal for diets that are a little bit higher in starch or have more of those fermentable starch sources like high moisture corn. This is a sample that majority of the High-Oleic folks will be aiming for. This is a 750 micron sample. It's gonna work well in most of the diets as long as you don't have some external challenges for rumen acidosis. You have the benefit of the smaller particle size for digestibility, but you are not actually going too low to the point that you're challenging the cows with available fat in the rumen, inhibiting fermentation. And it's a distribution, so every time that we're grinding particles, we're gonna have some coarse particles, some finer particles, but on average this is gonna be around 750. Here we have an example of a sample that is probably over-processed for most farms. Of course, that particle size is going to depend on inclusion levels and what the basal diet looks like, right? But overall, we need to remember that these High-Oleic soybeans, they have quite a big amount of fat, total fatty acids, and depending on how available those fatty acids become in the rumen, they may upset a little bit the digestion. So we don't want to go too fine in most situations. So this is a sample that is 450 microns, very fine, pretty much powder, and this is not gonna work well in most farms. So a nice range, that's pretty much what we've been seeing in these farms, is a range from 450 to 3200 microns.